Hey, everybody, and welcome. This is Bob. And today we're having a conversation with Mark Greenwich. Did I say your name right, Mark? Oh, you get another phone call.
Yes, that's fine. Mark Ritter is fine.
Is it really? Do you say Greenwich or Greenage or what?
It's actually I grew up Greenwich, but I chose the French pronunciation of Grenache. But I actually
Oh,
use Greenwich.
Grenache. Okay. Like fromage. Oh, he's doing some text now. I'm giving you play by play here. Mark has got some important texts that just came in. And he has said, execute order 66. So Grenache, that's interesting. But you didn't grow up with it being Grenache. So what was
No,
your inspiration to make that change?
uh, my my um my parents told me that you could pronounce it either way, and I guess it was just my own independence, starting my own family, and I was like, we're gonna do this.
Oh, okay. So they didn't there wasn't like any, Mark, we've said it this way our whole lives and you're going to say it this way too. They were just like, yeah, do what you want. We say
Yeah,
tomato, tomato, whatever.
yeah, that's it.
Well, that's awful nice. So would you say your parents were very permissible in other areas other than your name?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. You have an example?
uh, something. I'm sorry. Something keeps trying to pop up in the middle of my screen. Okay, all right.
That's just
An
pornography, Mark. You
example.
need to close that.
Oh no, I don't. I don't do that. No virus. No viruses on this laptop. Example. I would say that my family had was uber religious. Uber.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And I would assume that by saying uber religious, you mean more religious than even the Nazis.
Uh. Well, I would take it down a notch from there, but it was yeah. I weren't like cult religious, but it was definitely implemented.
Yeah, everybody. I can't believe that we in this day and age that we everybody uses the term Uber and doesn't really think about it being kind of a German,
Hmm.
thing. That's why I was just being ornery. So, but more religious than most. Oh, are you like a specialized religion or just one of the various Christian religions?
Um, I grew up in the of the three Abrahamic big three. I grew up in the Christian side of it.
Oh, okay. So like
And Judaism.
Baptist, Lutheran.
Uh it was whatever church my mom could send me off to get it out of my get me out of her face for Sunday for a few hours.
Whichever one was accepting children and closest to the house. Like, is there any kind of kids' night that we can get rid of these children for a few hours?
Oh yeah.
That's where you're going. So, but you said uber religious, but then it seems to me that it would be, you know, a particular church rather than just any old church.
No. Okay. Being more specific,
Well, you don't have to tell me the church. I'm just curious.
I'm over dramatized. Let me over dramatize for a bit.
Sure.
Let's say my mother, raising me, it was like, if you don't do what your parents tell you to do, or you don't believe in Jesus, you're
Hmm.
going to burn in hell forever.
Really? Wow. They always give me the burn in hell stuff.
And the older I got, the more I see, it's different levels of Christianity that use the scare tactic of, or else, like
Hmm.
believe in God, but the only other choice for that is to burn in hell forever and be tormented by demons for all of eternity.
Mm-hmm.
So the only other option is, well, I better go, follow what you're saying or else. There is no other
Mm.
choice. So when I say uber religious, I mean specifically on that level.
So basically you're saying they use religion to control your behavior a little bit.
Well, I think it's definitely the older I get, I definitely see it as a grown man as it's a manipulation.
Yeah.
But that's just my opinion. I always ask people, I'm like, have you seen God? No. It's okay. So have you ever seen heaven or hell? No. Okay, okay, then do you know who wrote these stuff? No. Well, are you going to go kill someone that someone told you that this book said to or that book said to? And God never changes, but somehow there's 1,000 different religions because this one God that just needs 10% of your money every week. And it just when you take your religious brain out of it and just objectively look at it, I think religion has a lot of good points and good things to show people how to interact with other people if you look at the positives. But I also
Mhm.
see it's ambiguous so far as it can be manipulated to really put the fear of God into people and manipulate masses. So
Yeah, interesting. So would you say now, after having, lived through this experience, where are you at on the spectrum of religion now? Are you agnostic? Are you atheist? Are you still mildly Christian?
I think that
I
the
asked the tough
teachings
questions
of the
here, Mark.
oh, that's cool. No problem. I think that the teaching of Christ is solid because I actually stepped back and put it in my mind, what would I know if there were no books and we were just born farming and eating and no formal education and we didn't know about
Mhm.
God? And I answered a lot of my own questions. And so just by default, I was like, this didn't just happen. So there is a creative energy there. So I'm
Mhm.
like, to me, in just my opinion, I can't prove it. I don't think this stuff just happened, the world and all of this. So when I think about it objectively, um, well, let me just answer your question 'cause I'm about to go around in circles. Um,
That's all right.
an- to answer your question, um, I do believe in the teachings of Christ. I think it's solid, the teaching itself, both so far as what the Bible gives it of, it's ambiguous. It's, a man can't die for the sins of the father, and the father can't die for the sins of the man. But here comes Jesus because somebody made a mistake in a perfect God in a perfect world. And the whole
Mhm.
story doesn't make sense to me. But if my religion needs me to believe it in faith, because I don't know if the man actually existed, but this is a faith based religion, I'll
Mhm.
say, okay. But if you ask me objectively, I have to tell you the truth. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. It would be on faith, but I think that um, I'm a mix between I guess Buddhist practices of meditation. I believe in reincarnation. I do practice and believe some in my ancestors' African conjure and our religions before we came to America or brought to America,
Mhm.
herbs and natural healing and going out in the sun and eating a vegetable diet and reverencing the ancestors and that kind of thing. So I kind of blend them all together.
Mhm.
Of I don't know if you would call it hoodoo or voodoo or Christian aspects or Buddhist and all that. I kind of blended it all together and came up with my own positive belief of just try to be, respect myself first because it starts there, and
Mhm.
then just be inclusive of other people. I don't want to be that hardcore. If you don't believe in my God, I got to kill you. Like that's just I think we definitely share the planet with other people, and it's just kind of, I don't want you to poison my water, so I'm not going to poison yours. At the end of the day, we're all drinking the same water. So that's
Oh,
kind
there
of
you go.
my belief. But do
So
I believe in
now let
Christ?
me
Yes.
a- let me ask you this question. So, as we over the last decade or so, and especially in the last 5 years, there's thoughts of possibly being other things happening, beyond our world, right? So
Mhm.
we've got these government videos with craft and so forth. So what happens if there are other planets and things just did happen by accident? So there's life elsewhere in the universe.
Mhm.
We just aren't privy to seeing it, but it's there. And now, over the next, let's say 15, 20 years, that comes to light. And hey, guess what? There's a whole other planets out there totally, just happened by happenstance. Does that change your mind?
I think no. I think that well, yeah, yeah, it
Okay.
would. I would have to go with the truth and the facts. If it were to be proven that there was no creator deity, there's just some creative force that keeps regenerating things, I could be okay with that. If that were the truth. At the end of
Mhm.
the day, I would just want to know that truth.
Ah, I see. So just like everybody else, and I think this is one of those things that religion fulfills in a lot of people is you want to be on the in, right? You want to be on the inside. You want to have the inside scoop
Yeah.
as to what's going on. And a lot of times I think religion fills that hole, that purpose for people. And they're like, oh, well, I know what's going on because I've got religion.
Yeah.
And I think that's what drives a lot of that a little bit. That's interesting. So you don't fault your parents for being kind of using religion as a stick.
I would have to say I have gratitude for their teaching because they put the fear of God in you, but I think just if you were to use fear itself, fear necessarily isn't a bad thing because it can keep you alive. You don't want to
Sure.
walk up and poke a bear or throw a rock at a lion.
Right.
So
Well,
when you
some
have
people do, but yeah, I would not
yeah,
be in that camp.
you have that fear. That fear is a good thing because you cut yourself. And you'll know. Well, hold on, I gasped too hard. I'm going to leak out and die. So that fear is
Mm,
like maybe I should go seek help and take care of this and live. But if you don't have any fear, you're like, I'll be okay, and then you'll just die of blood loss. Fear can be a positive thing. So if they use that like scary stories to tell kids to keep them from going out at night or doing certain things, and they actually use their fear to create a positive effect on you. So, you know, it, it,
well, then you're looking at it as a very good, from a perspective that it was what was best for you at the time, probably.
the
You
older I,
you were going to go out and just cause havoc and chaos, and this helped your parents rein you in so that way they saved others from the young Mark Grenage causing problems.
yeah, yeah, I think that if you don't have any control over your kids, and I've definitely seen it with my own eyes. Like kids need discipline, and if you don't, you just, I'm 52. I'll be 52 in a month, God willing.
Oh, hey, happy birthday.
Thank you. I you- I didn't hear of school shootings when we got spankings and we weren't abused. You just got spanked on the butt.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of kids that probably did get abused and they had to change things for that. But I'm grateful for discipline because it's kept me alive, kept me respecting myself and society and others. I kind of believe this is a weird stretch on what you were saying, but I think equality is life's big lie. Oh,
Mhm.
we're all equals. No, no, no,
No.
no, we are not all equals.
What's the delineation then? If we're not all equals, is there like you know what I mean? Like, is it when you turn 21? Is it what's the delineation for being a little more equal?
I think that when you're dealing with entities or humans that are not enlightened to self-respect and respect of others, and you're dealing with people on a strictly fear-based, animalistic level,
Mhm.
left brain, right brain kind of thing, then, you have to lock your door. You have to have a pistol. You're not going to walk through the jungle and assume that everyone is going to be your friend. There's some people out there that want to do you some harm. And
Mhm.
at the end of the day, equality, if people think people are really equal or animals are equal, tell that to the rat in the cobra's jaws, tell that to the zebra that has his ass in the lion's mouth, and you just go walk in any courtroom in America and cuss out a judge and see won't you get dived on by about 3 bailiffs. They're really,
Yeah.
we're not all the same. A president is above everyone. Officer has more than a regular person. Yes, untouchable people like ambulance and emergency workers. Like, not everybody is equal. And the sooner that you accept that and you live in civilized society, you kind of learn to stay in your lane. And you're like, this is where I'm at, and maybe I could grow further. But if
Mhm.
not, what I'm saying, this is where I'm at right now, and just kind of.
Well, so you've mentioned a couple of things there that we're getting deep here, Mark. I was going to be light, but okay, we're getting deep. So the you mentioned a few things. You talked about the legal system in there. You talk about that president, so your political system and so forth. So if we're not all created equal, how does a person get on the foot, get higher on the equal level, I guess you would say? Because if it's more of a scale, how do you climb that scale? um, because to me, then we have a bunch of systems going on. I'm just curious to see what system you ascribe to kind of level that playing field. What would you say a person needs to do in order to level up for themselves?
It would depend on, like I said, if you're dealing with an awakened person, and by awakened I mean just simply respecting yourself and respecting others. There, you can
Mhm.
have a cohabitance of a form of equality. It might not happen 24/7, but you can have a mutual conversation and an equal of respect on a small scale. But
Mhm.
to get to that level, when you're just dealing with the physical senses of human beings, um, if you want that, you're gonna have to be strong. There's people like, I don't have an intimidating look. I could people walk up to
You
me, I'm
don't? You think?
friendly, they talk to me, I'm nice. I'm not 6'5". I'm not, a football diesel body. I'm not, physically intimidating for someone to say, well,
How,
I wouldn't
how
approach you.
tall are you?
I'm 5'9". Like
Oh,
5'9",
okay,
five,
gotcha.
5'9" and a half, something.
I can't tell from the picture.
Yeah. So when you
I
look
would
at
have took you for taller, to be honest with you. You could have told me you were 6'10". I could. Oh yeah, you look 6'10" to me.
no, just
You
average.
may want to use that to your advantage in the future. Just keep that in mind.
See, but yeah, that right there is, you have to keep a leg up when you're dealing with unenlightened human beings. When you're out in the jungle dealing with the animal nature, you do have to have that bravado of, hey, if you want it, you can get it. Because if you look like a meal, someone's going to eat you. So
Mm.
it's just that law of the jungle is in effect on this planet. But I enjoy the times when it is not. When you
Hmm.
can take down the bravado and there's nothing to prove, and you can really just let that information and respect and love just flow freely. And when you know someone like that, that is a gift, that you don't have to go into animal mode. You can really just let your guard down and just let your conscience be free. That's a beautiful thing.
So, were you, as a young man, were you picked on in school? Perhaps.
Yeah,
Just asking.
absolutely. Oh yeah, yeah.
Because I do find that people kind of adapt philosophies that usually there's a trigger in their history somewhere that says I'm adapting this philosophy because X, Y, or Z has happened to me, and then that philosophy becomes very good, looks good to them. They're like, yeah, this is for me. So I was wondering, so were you picked on because of the religiousness of your family, or was it something else?
I was just a little skinny, tiny guy that just got beat up and picked on by big football players because I was an easy target.
Mm, I'm sorry. You seem to come out of it okay.
Yeah, well, I mean, you're either going to sink or swim, and I like doing the backstroke.
But the interesting thing is, so let's segue into brighter skies here a little bit. So
Okay.
you do you are into comedy, right?
Yeah.
And so you're doing something that I would say, well, I will tell you, I'll give you a little bit of a little bit of something that I've been thinking about. So I think in the past, so you said you're going to be 52. So in the past, so folks in their 50s would remember this. You're doing something that at the time when you were younger would have been something that most people would have felt impossible to do. And
Mhm.
the percentage of people who were doing it would have been very, very, very small because if you're going to do comedy, by default, typically you're going to do public speaking, and by doing public speaking, that people would rather cut themselves than do public speaking most of the time.
Yeah.
Right
Yeah.
now, I think that it's changing, and it's changing over the last 20 years or so. But typically, from your memory back, you have all these memories. That was probably the case, right? So that's probably the norm.
Yeah, I would agree.
So how do you go from somebody who was picked on and take the challenge of what most people can't even do, which is get up in front of people, let alone just talk in front of people, which is what people stop at, right?
Hmm.
That, I mean, to me that sounds easy, but most people can't even do that. Now you're trying to be funny in front of people, which is monumentally even harder than just talking.
Hmm.
So what set you on that path? I mean, to me that sounds incongruous with what you've been telling me so far with your childhood. I mean, I'm not digging that deep. We're not doing any kind of Freudian stuff here, but
What got me there?
or what put you on that path? That's there had to be a spark somewhere, and you're like, hey, this looks interesting.
Well, I have three statements to make about like what got me on this path.
Mm-hmm.
One, the log cabin I grew up in northeastern Pennsylvania, my dad actually built with his own hands, and
Seriously, that's
yeah,
fantastic.
um, and when they left the city, the Philadelphia, Baltimore, New York, Jersey area, and came up to the mountains in northern Pennsylvania. Um, People would come visit us from the city areas, Jersey, New York, Philly, Baltimore, family members, and they would go hunting. And we had like a retreat. I grew up in like a retreat mountainous area.
Oh wow,
And
Camp
my,
Mark.
yeah, Camp Michael, that was his name, my dad. Um, he, one time there was this brother, this black guy. He was skinny black guy, and he stood right in front of my bedroom door, right by the wood stove in the living room,
Mhm.
and he told jokes. And I don't know if I was like 3, 4, if I was real young, and I can remember all the adults just being real quiet, just sitting around this guy talking, and I don't even remember anything he said. The first movie I saw was on a film projector on my wall in my bedroom. The first
Mhm.
comedian I saw was right in my doorway in my bedroom as a kid. The first professional comedian I saw was Bill Cosby himself at the Binghamton Arena in New York with the little Coke and a Smile can and his little metal
Mhm.
chair. And my parents took me there, and that was like my introduction to comedy. But other than that, I was into hip hop. I fell in love with music. I was an underground rapper in the Bay Area of California for some years. Um, I was in a couple of groups. We recorded some music. Didn't take it to a professional level. I just wanted to be underground. I didn't want to be this big guy, and I enjoyed it. But it took me years to refine myself, and I had danced in front of people. I had rapped in front of people. I had been in front of crowds. I talked. I had a Christian radio co-host in Las Vegas. Two different radio shows out here, AM and internet. And so, talking and being in front of people wasn't that bad until I was like, I started writing jokes like in 2009. And I was just writing and writing, and for years, and I never really put it too much. I was going to use it for like sitcoms or movies because I was into like filmmaking. And so I said, well, let me try telling these jokes I'm writing. And so I got to liking it. But I took a school out here in Las Vegas, this guy named Don Barnhart. He had the Las Vegas Comedy Institute on like Valley View down from Sahara, like down by Desert Inn. And I went there for a few weeks. I was terrified every time I went up, and I had been a rapper. I had been on a mic, but a music and moving is different than just standing and quiet. And then people are going only on movement on what you say. I was terrified, but I kept doing it. I went up about maybe 8 to 10 times in a showcase with that class. And then I bombed one time and I didn't do it again, until recently, until this year. Life happened. People died. I had stuff to do. I had a family to take care of. And I was like, don't give up on this comedy thing. So this past year, I was like, started making a calendar on the wall. I broke out all my old joke books. And I was like, just do this, man. Just do it. Even right now, I'm dying to go get on an open mic stage for real and not just online Zooms, but I almost live out of town and I'm going through a lot in my life right now. So I'm not able to go consistently do it. But as we transition into another place, because we're going to leave this house, I want to go do, not want to, I'm going to go do it again. And this time I'm not scared of it anymore. Like I'm just not. I'm just at an age where I'm just not afraid of, what strangers think or being embarrassed or what I look like. I just own my stuff. I'm going to do it. You're either going to like it or you're not. And this is what I want to do. And your opinion really doesn't matter to me. I'm there. I'm past there in my life. So that's where I'm at.
That's interesting. So I find it fascinating that you talked about, your dad built this house out in the woods. I'm assuming you lived more in the city when you were little, and the whole family made the transition into kind of more of a rural setting. Was there, do you remember being in the more, cityscape or anything, or were you young enough where it didn't really take effect?
No, I was a baby.
Yeah,
I wasn't even walking when we left Philadelphia.
Did you have older siblings that were older than you that knew, or no?
Yeah, I have a drill sergeant brother. Older.
I'm just curious because it's interesting to me because at the time when you would have been younger, so this was probably be in the 80s when you were a kid, that probably wasn't the norm. That would have been something that would have been, most folks wouldn't have been doing that. I guess I would say. We've had, like decades of people moving into the cities from the rural areas, and your guys are going the other way. And so I think that's got to have some type of an effect on you, because my guess is, because I lived in a rural community, right?
Okay.
And so, we didn't get, and maybe it wasn't the same for you, but so we didn't get cable for a long, long, long time, right? I was well grown up before I ever had cable, right? So you just didn't get a lot of things that so you didn't have the same experience in the pop culture necessarily that everybody else did, perhaps. But you talked about being into music and so forth, so I'm guessing there was some connection somewhere there that worked for you. But I just find that interesting because I think there is a difference if you grow up in it doesn't even have to be a big city, just any kind of city, as opposed to being outside of that city, because then you have, especially during that time period when things were changing so much that, you know, we've been on a rocket sled since basically the mid 80s as far as technology goes.
Oh yeah.
And so, generally the rural folks get left behind in technology and have to kind of catch up because there's just not as much available. You talk about internet access and stuff like that. So now we're more stabilized if you look at that landscape a little more. Not totally, because I'm talking to you currently on a 5G connection because I live out in the country still. So, but other people have much higher speed internet. But it's interesting like that. Do you think that had any effect on you as far as that goes? Because you were not, in the mix, as it were, or it didn't really matter to you?
I had a huge effect. I was a baby when we left there, so I didn't remember. So all I knew was the mountains and the woods and hunting season and doe season and buck season and harvest season and planting and gardens and hiking and shooting and four-wheel drives and dirty boots and plaid jackets. So when I left and moved to West Virginia for a few months from Virginia, as an adult, we were down in Virginia. And then me and my first kid's mother, we moved to the Bay Area in California.
Oh my goodness.
I
Culture
didn't.
shock.
Wow. I didn't know how to get on a bus. Like, I was like, what is exact change? Like, what do you mean? I had to step back down and go to the store. Like, I really had a culture shock of, so many different people, ethnicities, languages. Like, I'd seen it before, but not so, boom, here it is. There's a guy on the corner that's trying to rob me. There's another guy that's trying to sell me something. There's this guy trying to pimp my girlfriend who's going to break in my place and try to murder us tonight. It was,
oh my gosh.
we moved in, eventually we ended up in the Tenderloin district of San Francisco. I tell you to Google that if you don't know anything about it. It's like a third world country.
I'm familiar.
Okay. Yeah, the Tenderloin district. And I lived there on Turk and Taylor, right above the bar in San Francisco in the TL district, for a few years. I would say, I wouldn't call it living. I call it God allowed me to survive. But you learn about yourself, like when you're in the woods by yourself and you get lost or you get hurt or something, you learn how to adapt into that environment. But when you're in an environment with so many people selling drugs, buying drugs, a corrupt police, butt kickings going on all day, shootings, double, triple homicides right outside your window, like it's just a whirlwind of you're going to turn into a lion or a sheep real quick. You're going to find out who you are. It's going to teach you that. And I really decided to be I wasn't on attack mode, but I kind of turned into the courageous lion. Like I help people, and that was, I guess just in my nature. When I saw something going bad, I'd stop it or I'd step in or, I would intervene in places, just times like, I really just didn't have it in me to be violent like that, but I had it in me to be helpful and compassionate to people that needed it like that. So I think, if there's good karma, maybe I picked up a couple points there, and maybe that's what got me through. It wasn't because I was a tough guy.
But so were you there in San Francisco for work, or how did you end up there?
It's called That's All I Could Afford.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, in that area maybe, but I mean, so why not, if it's not like, if you're not there for a job or something, why not just go someplace else?
I couldn't afford to leave. I could barely afford to stay.
Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Because I always think, and I'm not making any kind of judgment on this. This is just my thought process, right? So whenever it gets to be bad like that, I mean, you get your backpack and you start going, and find someplace else that is a little bit less, chaotic. But I understand what you're saying, though. You can't afford to move because you get stuck in a cycle, right? So, you can make enough to be there and get by, but you can't make enough to, launch yourself to the next destination. So how did you get out of there, I guess would be my question next.
Things changed for me financially, and the girlfriend I was with, she got a job, and I had an income, and I think we were both working, and we just kind of put two and two together and moved across the bay and found a little like mother-in-law shack behind someone's house in Berkeley, and
Okay.
kind of got away from that.
But now you said you're in Las Vegas area, so
Yeah.
I mean, you made another big leap. You've been across the country here, and you're working your way back, I guess, at this point.
Maybe.
From Pennsylvania all the way out to the West Coast in San Francisco, and now you're in Las Vegas. What pushed you to be there?
Vegas, me and my kid's mother, that's my wife now. I have two kids' mothers. She left and came here like a year and a half before me, and I was still kind of just straggling around doing my music, sleeping out of my van. And she was out here with my son, and I didn't feel like chasing the music dream anymore. I was just like, man, I've been doing this for so many years. Let me just call up. And me and her were friends. Like, we were friends before we got together. We're still friends now. And I was just like, hey, I called her mother to get her phone number, and I was like, hey, can I come out there? Just be with you guys and, see what I can, get a change of luck in life. And she said, okay, come on. And I came out here, and we've been together ever since.
Oh, well, that's good. So
been out here since 06. Yeah.
Since 06. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, though, you were trying to still working on your music side of things.
Yeah.
We talked about that out in Pennsylvania, but you were still trying to do something with that at that point. So do you think that there is any kind of connection between the music and comedy?
I think it's the expression, because when I would write lyrics for music, it's like very deep philosopher and stuff. So it allowed me to express my inner, my connection to comedy, I guess you would say, is numerology as well. It seems to make sense for me because my birthday equals out to a number 11. And that's like a master number, like an intuitive. It's like 11, 22, and 33. So
you're born on January 1st?
No.
No, that's all right. I'm just joking with you.
That's my birthday equals out to 11 when you add all the numbers.
When you add them all up, gotcha.
Yeah. So when I read what that meant, and I kind of went through this just recently, it was like the path that I'm on is already the path I was on. Like, whether I would have been a radio host, commentator, whether I had stayed and did music, whether I did film or comedy now, whatever I do in life is going to be a performance art. It's going to put my compassion out there, and it's going to really, I guess, put what I think about people and life in a public forum for other people to gather their own opinions from it without me being like trying to be teachy.
It's interesting because you've named several things. So you talked about filmmaking and music and all of these things are kind of creative arts, if you will. And I find that the folks that I've talked to over time, that a lot of them who are doing, stuff online and so forth, typically have this kind of creative urge that they're, an itch that they have to scratch. You think that I mean, looking through your history, obviously we've already talked about it, that's the case. So if you couldn't do, these things, what would be something else that you're eyeing for the next creative outlet?
If it wasn't comedy,
Mm-hmm. Like
um,
we've gone through filmmaking, music, and now comedy. So I mean, why
I
stop
would
there?
I would just probably bounce back and forth between filmmaking and comedy. But if
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't doing this, I'd probably be a poet. I like poetry as well. I like doing
Mm-hmm.
spoken word, and it'd be something about writing and speaking. Like, I even was a preacher, tried to be a preacher for a little while in this little house. This lady had me doing sermons and stuff. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a talker. I'm a speaker. So for me, it would be along this lines of something.
Why did you stop being a preacher, or did it never like take off?
I think I don't have the patience to be that consistent with one flock of people. To be a pastor, you have to be a very dedicated person. And
Mm-hmm.
then I get frustrated when I see the potential in people, but they're not moving on it. And that's pretty much been my life. It's like I see what you can become, but you're not going there, and I'm cheerleading you on for something that you don't want for yourself. So I'm like, let me just work on me. Okay, let me just work on me, and you figure that out. I'm not trying to be
Yeah.
a slave to trying to fix the world. I give you some information, you work with it, but I'm over here doing this.
Yeah, I always think of a pastor. I think that's like the worst job because everybody always wants to, wants your approval, right? Because they are buying into all of it, and for them, you're one step closer to the Almighty. And then the other thing is you gotta go see sick people constantly at the hospital. Those are the
Mm.
two things I don't like about being a pastor. I think
uh,
somebody's sick. Guess who's got to go see him? Pastor.
yeah. Somebody dies, pastor. Yeah.
Pastor. Yeah, then you got to talk about people in a nice way after they die. That's the hard thing too.
Yeah.
You're like, John was a son of a bitch, and you can't do that. They don't like you to get away with that.
Yeah.
I that's so then you got to like, oh geez, John really liked to garden. I don't know. You just make shit up, I think, and you just have to put on a face. That's always to me. That's the hardest part about. Now I've known some pastors and so forth when you kind of get them away from the crowd. They're the real person comes out in there, but you rarely see that, especially in front of the group. It
Mm.
all is kind of a facade. But no, it's interesting. You've had all these things that have. So if I were to ask you, Mark Grenage, by the way, I put up your thing here. I keep forgetting to mention it. You Look Like Open Mic on Facebook is a group that you run, and I keep putting it up there. So if you go to Facebook, search You Look Like Open Mic, and you can hop into that. But if you had to say, I always ask people like 5-year things, right? So I think it's important, even though I'm not necessarily a practitioner all the time, of saying in 5 years I would like to, and then you fill in the blank. So if you were asking yourself, you're like, Mark, in 5 years, this is what I want to be doing. What would some of that be?
I know exactly what I want. Very easy question. In 5 years, I would like to know that I'm first have been financially successful to not worry about home, vehicles, or bills whatsoever, and live where I choose.
Sure.
In yeah, in 5 years, I would like to be known for having made successful films, comedy films. And in 5 years, I would like to have toured around and got well enough known to be able. I would like to go speak to the troops. I'd like to provide comedy to the troops wherever they're at. That would be an honor for our soldiers, our heroes. And I would like to go to prisons and speak to people and kind of give a preemptive of my life and stuff I've been through, the neighborhoods I've lived in, the tragedies I've been through with my children and my family, and kind of like give other people like an insight of something that could help them, that would definitely be all free of charge, not all money, just to like balance out the give back.
Mhm.
And I'd like to be able to see us in a better light, um, as not just myself, but as a people, as blacks in America. I'd like for us to be accepted better by society, and I'd like for us to, as a whole, carry ourselves better. Like, let's stop killing each other in Chicago and Richmond and other places, and let's create a unity amongst ourselves. And not saying that all of us aren't, but just for the ones that are not, not a broad thing. It's just, if you're not, hey, let's put the guns down. Let's work on using that mind instead of selling drugs, and let's sell something legal. Let's be a part of this society, and get our lobbyists in there. Let's get our petitions before Congress. Let's get some laws on the books for us. Let's grow as a nation and contribute to the positive of this land that we call America. That's what I'd like to see in the next 5 years.
That's some big bites.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what's the first step? Or are you doing it already?
I'm doing it already. Just being consistent, new moon to new moon. Just set my goals and just take it one step at a time. Just you chip away at it one step at a time.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, best of luck in all that. I mean, this is big. These are big ideas and big thoughts and big goals, and I think everybody should have those, because everybody's like, you should start with something, and then some people poo-poo on everything, and they're like, oh, you need something more manageable. No, I mean, have whatever goals you want. The idea is to have them.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you have them, then you have something to think about and something to work towards. If you don't have anything, then what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? You got to have something. So, Mark, tell us. So, I met you. I should have did a little backstory at the beginning, but hey, this is how it goes. I met you through doing stuff on Plausible, and we were in the crowd work thing, and then now there's a roast battle, which I must say, I just went to one recently. That's my first one to go to. Brutal. You were brutal in the roast battle.
Yeah.
You and Jania.
Yeah.
The most brutal one, and I've only watched one of them now, so I can't have anything to compare. But the people that did the roasting the day I was there, which was just earlier this week, you guys were the most brutal. And I was like, oh my gosh. You have all these positive messages, and then that was so brutal. How do you what is this, the two sides of the coin here? How do you come up with that? How do you think through that one?
It is the two sides of the coin. Like, you learn about God. God loves you, but he will send you to hell. The dichotomy of the evil and good on the same coin. So I like roasting. I don't say I love roasting. It gives me a chance to sit down, my morals and all that. Like, how about a little bit of fuck you today? Because I think we all need that release. And if I can do it within a group of people that wanted it, and it's no love loss, and we go back to work or whatever, our lives the next day, that's fine, and we'll do it again next week. It's like, it's cathartic. Just let some of that evil out.
Let the evil out. I'm here to let some evil out tonight.
Yes.
That could be an opening line for you there. Yeah. Well, everybody, you can go see. You can join Mark's Facebook group here. You Look Like Open Mic on Facebook, and if you want, you can always stop by. Did I make that right? Is that the right way to spell plausible? I can't even remember now.
I think so. Oh yeah, I do have an open mic on Plausible.
There you go. You can go to Plausible and go to open mic.
I have an open mic. Or you can
just stop by and see the roast battle and watch Mark Grenache being his letting some evil out.
Yeah.
And it's entertaining. you know, and more.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a roast battle. I have it's a half the show is open mic and half the show is roast battle, and it's on
Mhm.
Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific.
There you go.
Unplausible.
And you can go check it out. And so thanks, Mark, for being here with me today and talking about all these this circuitous path through your life.
Thank you
Appreciate it.
for having me. I really appreciate the time and the effort that it takes for you to take out of your life and record it and edit it and post it. And thank you very much for having me. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, you'll watch back and you'll be like, yeah, I shouldn't have thanked him. We'll, we'll see you all next time.
All right.